Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni hao, Chunushumme, Washmale, Ohai Gozaimus, Guten Morgen, Ola, Boyor, Privyet, Kaifahal, Halishuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Balli Karaya, Hosh Galden, and thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PT World. You're certainly watching Word this morning alongside my very well-known colleague who I refer to as Mich Hazra. Satti, hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam, and thank you so much for asking me, Shahzad. So, behind the camera, we were discussing, whether Elon Musk bought the Twitter, whether the deal is still on board, or whether he has gone silent, or what happened. So, in all this debate, Shahzad, so he said that, if he buys Twitter, so he's going to make the platform free in that sense that, a lot of people have been banned from the Twitter, right?
Yes.
And one of them happens to be the former president. And
Trump.
he said, yes. And he said that, he's going to unban him, right?
Yeah.
And, that sparked a debate that it should not happen. So, what is your opinion on that, about the free speech, about, responsible free speech, stuff like that?
Yes, obviously, when we say responsible free speech, there needs to be responsible free speech. Obviously, everybody who kind of, adds value to the social media platform, it's great. But God forbid, when we look into the US elections as well, and they say that, it was the social media platforms which kind of did rig the election too as well. So I think that's not being responsible as well. And
do you think it's possible?
Yes, obviously it is possible. And imagine, when he gave out a call, when for the second time he really didn't win the elections as well, and he said that the elections were rigged too as well. And then all of the people came out. So, I think that this is actually something of spreading anarchy too as well. And for everybody who's out there, I think that, it is totally onto us, and we really need to take responsibility for our words and for whatever we speak on all of these social media platforms, because it's not going to go down the drain. It will always stay there as well. But, obviously, if I will be in Elon Musk's shoes, and if I have spent $44 billion, I can certainly do what I wish to do as well. But other than that, it was his birthday too as well. So happy birthday, Elon Musk. You obviously are an inspiration for a lot of people out there. Imagine now NASA actually takes help from Elon Musk, which I believe is a great deal. What about you? What do you have to say?
Okay, so I do believe, Shahzad, that, in the 21st century, in the digital age, I do feel that, people are so much into being politically correct that, that squashes the diversity in the debate. So, for example, this happens mostly in the Western societies, because let's take the example of LGBTQ and stuff like that. If you say that, this is not a good thing, this is haram, and it's not supported by the religion, they're going to label you, a fascist, or, whatever. It's a very bad thing or worse thing. So I would feel that my voice has been silenced, right? Let's take the example of, how the feminist movement has evolved, especially in the aftermath of the Me Too, and, how the Johnny Depp versus the Amber Heard case proved that, that was a false allegations. But then again, as a man, a lot of men feel that their voices also, they have been bogged down because of.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're trying to say as well. But, with the Johnny Depp case especially, I believe that, for all of those men who have been silent for a longer period of time, not telling anybody what their wives have been doing to them, and it's because of the fact that the society won't believe us. Imagine that this has happened now.
Why is that?
So and it sets a precedence for everybody. God forbid if somebody's in a toxic relationship,
of course.
He might not say anything to his wife, or the wife might not say anything. But, there will always be one partner who's more toxic than you are as well. So obviously to set it right, I think it actually sets a precedence for everybody out there, that it cannot only be women subjected to violence, it can be men too as well, because we're equal in the society, right? So once you're equal, things can go any way. But I think it's best for the people to come out, fight for their rights as well, and then to speak. And whenever somebody is going to label you with whatever comments, that does not silence us. This is where that's the part of conversation where I will disagree. And it's because of the fact that you have said what you wanted to say. So let people say whatever they're saying.
In the face of the majority opinion, I do feel that, if you have a minority opinion, that sometimes gets bogged down.
Yeah, that's true.
Happens,
that's true. But, that totally depends on how many people support you, right? Because you're on a social media platform. Well, we will certainly sort this conversation out one other day, one fine day as well. But obviously the day over here in Islamabad is sunny. It's really hot these days once again. But yes, obviously from the 1st of July, we are expecting the first rainfall of the monsoon as well. And then towards the later half of the month, July, we will definitely witness another monsoon rain season as well. So for everybody who's out there, the advisories has been out there as well, because we might, God forbid, expect flash floods, during the second spell of the monsoon rain as well. But very quickly today, ladies and gentlemen, so we have been talking about our health, your health, the adult health, cholesterol, blood pressure, all of these things. But today, we will be talking about health conditions of the people who certainly cannot tell us that, well, what they're feeling, what they're going through, whether they have pain or not. So we're talking about babies today. But whenever, God forbid, unfortunately, a baby is ill, we obviously have to take them to a pediatrician. What is the role of a pediatrician is something we want to share with you first. And then we have the best pediatrician over here in the Twin Towns, known popularly, all over the globe as well. You call somebody in UK, in Pakistani community, they will tell you, un doctor sahab ke paas jao. So first up, the role of pediatricians, and then when you guys will come back, most common diseases amongst kids, toddlers, and infants. Let's do this. Good morning.
As soon as a child is born, the utmost importance is given to the health of the kid. You approach a pediatrician who specializes in the treatment of children. A pediatrician plays an important role in the health and wellness of children, which includes physical behavior and mental health issues. One of the most significant contributions of a pediatrician is to reduce the rate of infants and children's death. Reasons to go to a pediatrician are: they have special training in children's health. They only see children in their practice, so they have a lot of experience in recognizing and treating childhood illnesses. If your child is a premature baby or has a health condition that needs close monitoring, a pediatrician may offer more specialized care. A pediatrician controls the spread of infectious diseases at a very young age of the child that helps to ease the problems of children and adolescents with chronic health conditions. A pediatrician can diagnose and treat several health conditions common among children, such as mild to severe injuries, mild to severe infections, congenital conditions, genetic conditions, cancer, organ dysfunction, and organ diseases. Pediatricians specialize in providing healthcare treatment for children from their birth to their adolescent stage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's the role of pediatricians, and obviously it gets bigger than this. It does not certainly stop over here, from the diagnosis to the treatment, and then obviously, because it's not just the baby only, it's the mother and the father too as well, whose questions you're really supposed to answer. But first things first, let's introduce our amazing guest over here, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, known popularly all over the globe, alhamdulillah, wherever you go to call somebody in Pakistani community, maybe US, UK, elsewhere, they will tell you, yeah, un doctor saab ke paas chale jao, inshallah sab theek ho jayega. And yes, obviously, when we talk about people recovering, obviously it's by Allah too as well. But obviously Allah will make a medium in between. He's one of the most common mediums, to be very honest and fair as well. So we're very lucky that we've been joined by the former HOD PIMS, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about PEDS department. And he is Dr. J. Krishan. Hello, sir. Professor Dr. Saab, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Hello, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you. So before we actually kind of delve into a conversation where we want to know about, what are the most common diseases, I certainly want to talk about the relationship of a pediatrician and the parents. Would you mind enlightening us about that?
Well, I think it's a very good question for all the community. I think the most common problem which are existing nowadays in situation in children, including the parents, is the children, the diarrhea is one of the most common problem which are easily treatable. But we don't treat it the way it need to be. And similarly, you have got a lot of respiratory tract infection, upper tract infection, pneumonia. Most of these infections, they are viral in origin. And but we don't treat them perfectly. We hit them with antibiotics, which they are not needed in most of the cases. Then you have got a resurgence of measles, you can have a malaria, you can have a urinary tract infection, which are the hidden infection which a child can't tell. So these are the common, and then of course there are genetic problem, and we talked about the neurological problem, you have got a congenital problem. So it's basically, but majority of the common problem which are existing in Pakistan is basically the respiratory tract infection, diarrhea,
UTI,
urinary tract infection, neurological symptom, genetic disorders.
Wonderful.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for saying that. And I really wanted to explore, because we were talking about the technology earlier on, the relationship between the children, between the technology, and between the medicine, right? So I see there are a lot of, kids who are into the gadgets, into the screen, and I do feel, somehow that, they're not responding that much. Their socialization or sociability is being impacted about it. So what exactly is a good age for kids to, interact with the gadgets, especially when it comes to the newborn babies or, 6-month-olds? What do you suggest?
Or do you think it hinders their cognitive ability?
Well,
Yes.
I think it's an excellent question. I think nowadays, if you look and if you go to visit anybody's home, or even if you see them in the market, you go to the airport, you go to the bus terminal, every kid is having a mobile in his hand and they are playing. They are hardly interacting in the surrounding. Yeah. So I think basically it impairs their cognition because they are now centered in one area. And they think this is the only world for me, and they are unable to explore the things which are basically naturally existing in the surrounding. They don't interact with who is sitting nearby. They don't talk to who is. In our day, when we used to be the kids, my father, my uncle, my auntie, they we used to sit together. They keep telling us the stories. So this thing has gone. And once you are entered in this business of this gadget and mobile, computer, they are least bothered what is happening in the surrounding. I saw a video clip a few days back when the mom was sitting and the son was sitting, his grandson was sitting, and his elder son was sitting, and they say it's mom's day, but everybody was watching the mobile. Yeah. So the mom was looking at them, nobody was looking at the mom. True. So this is the thing. So we are isolating ourselves. So that impairs your cognition. You can't understand what other people are doing around. True. So that's a very dangerous business. And it's a very good question which was asked, how much time should a child spend on a screen? I think less than 2 years, there should be no screen time. Okay.
Right.
And between 2 to 5 years, screen time should not be more than 1 hour.
All right.
And then after 5 years, yes, after 2 years is permitted. Okay. But that is fine because now the world is changing. You have to explore the world, but not at the expense of natural learning.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true as well. But on the contrary, for example, when we used to sit down with our family members, may it be parents and, sisters and everybody, and sitting in front of one single television where we weren't allowed to have televisions in our rooms, obviously, we had to watch programs which either the mother likes or the father likes. Now everybody has the liberty to see whatever. But you're right, obviously, the parents really need to play their role over here. But majority of the times when you witness that, that there might be a cognitive ability problem with the children, or the child, what would you tell the parent, God forbid, if somebody's in the clinic and you can realize that, hey, the kid is not listening to me and he or she is not really sure. What do you ask the parents that, what have you been up to?
I think most of the problem which is existing nowadays, the parents, they do come to us at the age of 1.5 years, 2 years. Doctor, he's 2 years, he's 2.5 years. He doesn't listen to me. He is so engaged in his own activity. Whenever I try to call him, he never gives attention to me. Yeah. He is basically busy in his own world. Okay, if somebody comes at my home, he doesn't pay attention to me. He's got a very poor eye-to-eye contact. He has got a fixed behavior. He has got a poor interaction with the surrounding. He has got a poor socialization. So these are the warnings. And the child, he doesn't talk. The simple question we ask, is this a local, simple speech delay, or is a part of autistic spectrum disorder? All right, yes. So yes, we have to ask the history of the mother. Was the mother okay during the pregnancy? Was she taking any drugs? Was the baby born normally? Was the baby premature?
So the mother had, oh God forbid, if the mother's taking drugs while pregnant, can actually have an impact on the baby too?
Oh, definitely, because there are certain drugs which are basically not permitted to be taken into the pregnancy because it's very common practice in Pakistan. We do the self-medication. Yeah. We have got some problem, they take antibiotic, and that is indirectly is basically hampering the growth of your newborn baby. Right. And once the baby is born, so I keep talking to the doctor, did you ever take the medicine? Yes, doctor, I keep taking the medicine, antibiotic. Sometime I have got a fever, sometime I take this medicine. So they don't take the permission from the doctor. True. And this is not only affecting their health, but affecting the health of the baby born later.
Right. So Dr. Saab, and how mindful should we be about, the kids who are saying, that I have a stomach ache or I have a headache, and a lot of time, parents says that, he does not want to go to school. These are the lame excuses. So do you think that, there are always the lame excuses, or might the child be suffering from such kind of headache or stomach ache, and what does that entail, when it comes to peace?
Absolutely, all right, because there are certain things which a child, they basically, they say, he got to, because they don't want to go to school today. Suppose you want to watch something, I will pretend that I have got a pain and abdomen, I have got a headache, and so so the mother asks them to, let's go to the doctor. No, mama, I'll be okay. If I'm going to sleep, I will be okay. So that basically is an indirect evidence. This is not a true problem.
Because you can sleep.
But of course, if a child comes to me and the mother is worried, doctor, he has got a recurrent abdominal pain, and it basically is affecting him not only in the morning when he goes to school, but even in the night time, he walks up and sometimes he comes to a pain. That these are the warning signs. And a simple headache, yes, majority of the children who are having a headache may have got a sore throat, they have got a flu-like symptom, they have got a nose block. So we have to dig out the history.
True.
Is he breathing normally? While he is sleeping at night, does he open his mouth and he breathe through the mouth? And does he has got increased salivation while he's lying down? So that indicates, yes, his child might have got some nasal allergy. He can't breathe through, so his sinuses get blocked, so he may got a headache. So we specifically ask, where is the headache? Is it frontal? Is it temporal? Is it affecting your half head? Because that gives you the clue what type of headache it is.
True.
Not all headaches are basically related to the diseases. True. But sometimes if you are tired, you are a lack of sleep, you are then automatically it may cause a headache.
Exactly. Right. And in addition to that, since we are talking about it as well, and it's the pediatrician's job to actually figure it out what's wrong with the kid. Most of the time the kids cannot speak. We talk about infants, we talk about toddlers as well. So mother actually needs to give their history as well. So how do you think, for a pediatrician, do you think at times it gets difficult because the mother goes here and there, talks about almost everything, because whenever we are in conversation with mothers too as well, oh, bacha ji bas pata nahi inj ho janda hai, there's so many other reasons as well. But the mother rarely knows what the problem is. So the connection in between the pediatrician and the mother really needs to be well sorted, or the father as well, because they are the ones who will be their tongue or the baby's tongue as well, and they will speak the language which we will understand. So what kind of relationship, and where do you think it gets confusing most of the times with the mothers?
Well, I think it's a very good question, because if the mother comes to me, doctor, my child has got abdominal pain.
Okay.
And sometimes he has got a diarrhea, sometimes he has got a constipation. And once I start asking him, since how long this, doctor, he also had a chest infection 2 years back. Now I have just completed the primary disease and she is jumping from one. Doctor, he also had an ear infection when he was 2 years old. Doctor, he basically fell on the ground when he was, so it basically drift my attention, what I'm talking. And by the time, towards the end, I start forgetting what was the original problem. So I think I always tell the mother, please, what is the basic problem right now? Yes, if that your child is malnourished, he has got a short stature, this is the secondary thing.
True.
Right now, this child is having a fever, he has a cough, he has got breathing difficulty. I will say this child maybe he got pneumonia, which is more important. Rather than this child is short, doctor, why he is stunted, doctor, he is not eating well. I say, please consider this child is having pneumonia, which is a major killer. The vesting is not going to kill your child, but it will take some time to build up the problem.
Exactly.
So please concentrate on the basic problem. Yes, we are going to listen your queries very reasonably, and I try to write down the thing. What is the problem? She said one. I say right, and then I repeat them. Acha, you asked about the headache. Acha, you told about the diarrhea, and then the mother the doctor has taken an interest. He has listened to me. So I think it's our prime duty to listen to the mother very carefully, and then repeat the thing, and then ask them, do you want to see something else? He said, no, doctor, it's okay. So it will be easy for us to figure out where the problem is.
Exactly.
But what doctors are so busy asking 2 questions, maybe samajh aa gayi hai, chado. So I think fault also lies on part of us. We don't spend much time on the children.
Yeah, obviously, because obviously the line is long as well, and I would certainly want to comment over here as well, because whenever in relationships we have seen how most of the time women would say, you did this in 2010, you did this on probably another occasion, and it's most of the time where it's the women's memory which actually works. You did that then. So obviously when it comes down to their own baby, they remember almost everything, and it is important for them. But sir, very quickly, now I've seen a lot of mothers who will keep their babies on self-medication, And they will have, unfortunately, I never wanted to say this, but I see this as a problem, and it's because of the fact that the mothers themselves have a fear of knowing that, my baby is not feeling all right. Even though that the baby will be fine, the baby will be doing wonderfully well, eating well, sleeping well, but the mother will have this fear that, God forbid something is wrong with my baby, will keep the baby on self-medication, and will go to the doctor very regularly. Every time, even the kid is actually going to sneeze, they'll be like, oh, doctor sahab, dekhe isko kya ho gaya. They're so worried. They're over worried about their babies as well. Do you think that this kind of behavior is all right for the baby's health as well, where you...
Absolutely all right. I think even if the baby is born, I think this is the social culture, the pressure from the surrounding, especially from this dadi, nani, and pados ki or the neighbor, and they come and they give you the different advices. Once the baby is born, oh, please give him good tea, please give him some water, give him some this sugar. I think this should be shahad de diyo. I always tell them, please don't do that. This is basically going to hamper the production of the milk from the mother. Because once the child is starting taking something which is sweetener, and automatically it impairs your appetite. He's not going to suck at the mother. And then they was, oh, this is the second day, the child is crying, the mother's milk is not coming, please give him milk, give him bottle. And once you start doing this practice, automatically let down reflexes, it finishes, because your tummy is full, then you are not going to suck at the breast more forcefully, and until unless you are not going to have a good suck at the breast, the milk is not going to come out. And first 3-4 days, they are very, very important. I always tell them, mother says, doctor sahab, my milk is only 2 or 3 drops or 5 ml. I say that's enough. That is the God's gift. He knows when the milk is going to pour out. Okay, so first 2 or 3 milk is small, the tummy is very small, it needs only 5 or 10 ml of milk, and after on a 3rd and 4th day, the mother start pouring a lot of milk, and that's the best for the baby. So if you give them the good tea, we are going to clear the tummy. Oh gee, the stool color is black, I think give him good tea, flushes that, but I think the mother's milk is the best. It's the colostrum. It acts like a good tea. It basically evacuates your and it clears your
the
tummy.
Immune system as well when we talk about mother's feed as well, right?
Oh yes, and the first part of the mother's feed, that is called colostrum, which is very thick. We say that, oh, it's a dirty milk, oh, it's so yellow, but that is one of the best milk, which is called a 4 milk. It contains a lot of nutrients, it contains a lot of immunoglobulin, it contains macrophages, it contains all the immune cells. So they are the best protective measure for the children. So I think never discard that milk. हम कहते हैं इसको बोलीज.
Exactly, and sir, with this, I think that it is very pertinent for us to ask that, majority of the times I've seen that, that babies are usually on formula milk. And whatever the reason may probably be, whether the mothers like it or not, but in the urban setting, that's what we see the most. In rural areas, obviously, mothers are well aware of the nutrition and the nutritional facts, and they would certainly want the baby to be on the mother's milk as well. Now, with formula milk, I've seen that, every time you go visit a pediatrician, the pediatrician will be like, oh, gee, doodh sahi nahi hai, koi aur doodh le lo. Something of that sort, that, that the milk you're already giving them, is not perfectly fine for the kid, and, which is why, he's getting abdominal problems, he's cranky, or she's cranky, or whoever, or whatever, the baby girl or the baby boy as well. How do you think that formula milk, God forbid, can hinder your growth in years to come as well? Do you think that it will hinder, or do you think that it's okay?
I think it's definitely is hindering your growth.
Okay.
Some of the children, while I was as a young kid, my even have daughter-in-law or mother, and we see the surrounding, they keep giving oh, I'm giving this child this milk, he's getting healthy, this child is getting mother's feed, he's so thin and skinny. I said, but his cognition is much better than your child. A simple obesity in the early stages with this formula of milk is hampers your next, because the simple obesity in the early childhood is likely to be adult obese. And you all know what are the problem with the obesity. They increase the risk of diabetes, they increase the risk of hypertension, they cause a joint problem, they cause a cardiac problem, cholesterol. So you just name a thing which is linked with obesity. So if a child is on a breastfeeding, initial growth is little slow, but they can regain. So one question which you asked very nicely, so why shouldn't I shift him to the formulated milk? I said, no, doctor, when the day he was born, he was about 3.2 kilo. It's about almost 10 days. His weight is almost now 3 kilo. So he's losing weight. Why don't you support him with the formula? I said, no, this is a physiological drop. When the baby is born, 10% weight is lost in first week because you have got extra fluid, and that fluid has to be lost into the urine. So you lose weight. Next week, that weight gain is restored by 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, they start gaining weight. So you have to understand them and tell them. Not to support them to go and take the formula milk. And I think introducing bottle feeding is a very, very nasty. It basically destroys your tummy. If you got oral thrush, it increases the risk of diarrhea, especially in the season like summer. It's very difficult to clean the bottle, and they are
then
not.
obviously, when the baby actually starts to grow their teeth as well, it's just a chaos. Because they have this habit of while they're sleeping, so they're on the bottle feed too as well. The milk stays in their mouth. There's this odd smell which comes out early in the morning. So it's very different. But yes, obviously, I believe that everybody has heard Dr. Saab as well. Do you want to ask something, say something?
Okay, so my last question is, since you also mentioned that we can't, protect our kids from getting exposed to the digital media, right, the technology. And I would really like to ask you, the debate between having junk food versus the healthy food, right? So a lot of mothers nowadays, because, junk food is more easy to cook, so, they cook them and they give it to the child. How much that it hampers the growth, or do you recommend it? Because, again, that we're all eating junk food.
And that junk food is most of the time, sir, deep fried, oily, and sometimes half cooked as well. Because obviously the mother who's not interested in making nuggets at home, and calling them from outside, she certainly might not even know how to fry them, or the father even.
So I think it's basically affecting your nutrition in two ways. Either you get undernutrition, either you get overnutrition, and both have got a deleterious effect on your body. Of course, if you are going to take a food from the vendors or from the markets which are not been properly cooked, they don't wash their hand, cross infection, and once you develop infection, automatically you do not going to digest those things. You develop diarrhea. You are strong, losing your weight. Your muscle mass will be reduced. Your fat will be reduced, which are the building blocks of your body. And on the other hand, if you are taking this high energy food, automatically that will make you obese. And they contain a lot of organic substances. They got a lot of sweetener. These are basically sort of a nasha jisam kehte hain. And once the child is accustomed of taking those food, he is not going to eat any food which been prepared at home. So I always tell the mother, please, whenever you try to cook the food, please make it a little tasty, and mostly it need to be a good presentable, like you go into the hotels where they start putting this is a lemon, this is tomato, so it looks very catchy. So when the child are more inclined towards, so I say, mother, please spend some time, sit with the child, eat first, then let the child to eat, because he is going to follow you. Until unless you are not to guide him properly, he is not going to be trained.
Exactly.
So we are the bad trainers. We take them for outing. And doctor साहब 2 दफा खा सकते हैं. और मैं क्या बीबी छड्डो 2 दफा क्यों आप घर पे क्यों नहीं बनाती हैं?
But thank you very much, Professor Dr. J. Krishnan Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, the former HOD for Peds at PIMS as well has actually said it all as well, and I think it's really very important for the mothers to cook for their kids by themselves as well, or probably the fathers as well, because that's what I believe in. You could probably make star shapes, French toast as well, pancakes, something which looks interesting, or a Mickey Mouse cake too as well at times. If you're making it at home, make it look interesting to the kids as well, and then just be excited while you're having it alongside them. And yes, they will kind of do that. I was always the sort of a baby, my mother tells me that I would eat anything, anything. And my eldest sister, who's actually 1 year older than me, she used to eat everything and anything, and she never had this sense that her stomach was full, so she would start throwing up as well. So if Sidrapi, you're watching, this one's for you. But now, alhamdulillah, I don't think that she's eating anything, because she's eaten everything while she was growing up as well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we really need to head out towards a short break. When you guys will come back, we have another important topic to discuss, and that is that most of the times when we are hiring, people from HR, what they do is that they certainly do not verify who they are hiring, or they do not look into the background of the people. How important is it? Because, when we speak about the importance of health, we certainly need to speak about the importance of health of the organizational behaviors too as well. So how do we do that is something we will be talking about in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
welcome back. And earlier on, we were talking about the machine automation and the human intelligence, and about, we are having a debate on the Twitter platform and stuff like that, right, Shehzad?
Yes.
And also, before going to the break, Shehzad mentioned, that how we need to know our employees before the recruitment, or, what actually goes into the organizational setup when they are recruiting people. So, the people who are watching, they can actually take the tips of, how to prepare before they go to interview, right? So, for that, we have two very wonderful and amazing guests with us. So we have with us Nilofer Galzezi, who happens to be...
I'm very sorry to intercept over here, but ladies and gentlemen, we'll actually head out towards a short break very quickly. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. All right, people, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying tuned to PT World. You are watching World this morning. With me, I have Ms. Hajar Sati. I happen to be Shehzad Hassan Khan. And yes, we've given away what we were talking about. But now I think it's about time that we introduce our wonderful guest, who for the very first time will be talking about why is it important to do a background check whenever you're hiring. We're very lucky that we've been joined by a growth hacker who happens to be Ms. Sansa Saqib. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum salam, Shehzad. Always a pleasure being here. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Likewise, and it's always such bright minds like you who come up with these ideas as well, and we certainly want to explore on that too as well. But alongside her, we're very lucky that we've been joined by a senior HR professional and consultant, Ms. Nilofer Galzezi. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you?
Wassalamu alaikum. I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. So thank you very much for joining us. Let's get the conversation started. Why is it important to do a background check whenever you're hiring?
See, absolutely. When you are hiring an employee for an organization, employees are definitely the highest stakeholders and asset for an organization. Right. And one bad hiring takes you at least 2 years back where you were starting it off altogether. So background checks are important because employees nowadays are, there are less jobs. and there are a lot of unemployment in the country, right? So employees nowadays are like, I would regret to say, but they, falsify some sort of information on their resumes, particularly on the social media, on the platform where they are being, where they are being searched for.
About their qualifications?
Yeah, obviously that too. So when we talk about background screenings, we are talking about not only their personal credentials, but also their professional credentials, as well as educational verifications when we talk about it, as well as their professional references where they're coming from.
All right.
So when you hire an employee, it's considerably important that what their previous employers think of them and how they performed in there. And other than that, what about their personal verifications, the police verifications? Are they credible enough to be hired in your company?
All right.
Will they be maintaining the confidentiality? Will they fall in the rules and laws of your country? Or have they been,
and does the same rule apply for the people within the HR department?
Of course it
Okay,
does.
yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Because obviously, if I have to, kind of run a background check on somebody, I really need to have my own background check done by somebody else too as well. That's how we will be responsible employees as well. So, you kind of highlighted a few areas. For example, when we talk about background check, it needs to be about your qualification. It totally needs to be about your area, police verifications, and everything. Do you think that there can be other important areas as well where we really need to check those background, issues?
And also, so your digital footprint is your new CV, right? As you mentioned, social media is very important when it comes to recruitment.
That's where we get caught.
Right. And so which websites or the social media networking websites are exactly important, and how people should interact on them, which should not be used against them, when it comes to recruitment?
Right, so those are very pertinent questions. With regards to the digital footprint, you've just hit the nail on the coffin. So I've been working with international organizations, MNCs for some time, leading high performance teams. We're like even every single day doing a couple of interviews for positions, but what happens is that not just on Greenhouse, not just on recruiting softwares, but I also go through the candidate's LinkedIn.
Okay.
Because like you said, that's your digital footprint. So if they don't have a strong, solid profile on LinkedIn, that just shows that, one, they're not at par with the trends that are going on. Number two, it also shows credibility. So that background check that Nilofer was referring to, definitely you have third-party firms who are experts in those, but even otherwise, when you talk about references, right, you can see a lot of mutuals that are coming up. You can see certifications. So those things are very important, and this is an advice that I would like to give all the young people. Strengthen your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Ask for recommendations. I look for testimonials, any known people, any known professionals.
Okay. I know it's important and where you're headed with this as well, and but it can always be a personal choice for people whether to make one or not, because some people will have a contact list which is quite strong as well when we talk about references. But I think, for all of those mothers who are out there probably looking for rishtas, you really need to hire this service because they will get the qualifications sorted, everything sorted too, on lighter note.
Right.
But very quickly, what I need to ask is that unfortunately we live in a country where eventually, somebody's in the government and we figure out, hey, what, their degree was fake. So all those background checks, whatever is in place, the SOPs in place, have been overruled by a person, or he was or she was able to trick somebody and get into the assembly. Doesn't it make it more challenging for people to come in Pakistan to verify whether the gentleman or the lady is authentic or not? So how do you do it?
So actually, the organization that I'm working with, it's Corporate Research Investigations, with its footprints internationally. We've got one of our offices in Canary Wharf, London, the other is in DIFC, Dubai, and one is in Malaysia, and the other one is in the process of executing its services in Turkey.
Okay.
So with the global footprint, I think it's very important to, have a global team that works all together, and it's not only the people in Pakistan, the organizations and multinationals in Pakistan that are conducting this human employee smarts, verification, but also the international firms that are doing it.
Yeah.
So when we talk specifically about in the context of Pakistan, it becomes really vital because I have come across a few cases where the top leading HR professional, HR business partner in an organization, she, I won't name the organization, but she had a kind of, the degree could not be verified.
Yeah, all right. And in addition to that, what I wanted to ask over here was that, okay, since we've mentioned that, okay, this is how the background checks will be done, why don't we talk about, what catches your eye? What are the most common mistakes people make? and you know it there and then as HR professionals that, hey, you know what, this guy or the girl is probably lying, or, you know, there's something wrong within this case. So I want both of you to kind of explore on that as well. Let's start with you.
So, you know, with regards to the HR part, I'll let Nilofer handle it. But what I look for as a leader when recruiting is at least, you know, people lie about their experiences a lot. You know, when we ask them technical questions, a lot of times, like even yesterday, I asked a young man, you know, a certain question, it was technical, and he said, oh, I know the answer to it. I said, okay, so what happens next in the sales funnel? And he's like, he was dumbfounded. And he said, you know, I knew this, and then he started coughing. So that nervousness, you know, your interviewer can pick up on it. And I said, look, it's okay. We have a paid training phase when you join for this purpose. If you don't know it, be honest, because those are the qualities that I'm looking for. Honesty, integrity, ability to learn. So don't lie about your experiences, don't lie about your degrees, don't lie about your salary.
But that can be a sweeter way of getting them into that trap too as well most of the time. You know, even if they knew and they've originally forgotten, you know, that can be the case. And in addition to that, you know, we live in a country where majority of the time it will be really hard for you after your graduation to kind of get into a job or land yourself into a job, because every other job opportunity you will get will be asking you for a 4-year or 5-year experience. And we certainly do not get that experience. We get those experiences at work on job too as well. And then the other person will always be nervous. So how do you come around this as well? Because most of the times whenever we see a job ad, you know, it will be like, hey, you know what, we do need fresh graduates, but they need to have 2 years work experience as well. How is that possible? Please go ahead.
See, that's a very important question, and the budding issue that goes on along many organizations. HR needs to be specific, but they need to be human too. There needs to be a human factor in the human resource manager, right?
Yep.
So when we talk about the fresh graduates, most of the organizations, they think that someone has been, you know, certain sort of experience kahin aur side, but that's not possible, right?
Yep.
So organizations should be very practical in this context. You know, nowadays, specific criterias are important. When we talk about the leading employee job monsters, like Rosie, like a few others, LinkedIn, Target, headhunting, we specify that, you know, I don't need any experience, I need a fresh grad, that will be the salary, so you can go about it. I think you need to be very clear and honest in mentioning that whatever you need and what you are getting from the other person. So when you, another question was when you know, I certainly, this is an era of digitization and work from home is very common, but I certainly would believe in taking a one-on-one interview to encounter certain sort of psychological questions with the, you know, interviewee as well, in order to identify that how truthful and honest he is being about himself. So I try to maintain a certain sort of personal relation, you know, personal contact with him, talking about his personal journey, strengths, weaknesses, where he comes from. It speaks a lot about a person, his preferences and choices in life, and his ambition. Where does he want to see himself like after 5 years? And I don't want to go about, and I do not even prefer the bookish answers to that. Because it's been a long way since I'm in this profession. I think HR needs to be very professional, very particular. It's not only about fabricating your salaries and advertisement, it's about correctly mentioning the requirements that you're looking for. So you can sift and, you know, curtail the recruitment process a bit shorter. Yeah,
I think, and it's important too as well. You know, why don't you take the lead now?
Okay, thank you.
You've been raising your finger for a while.
Thank you so much for giving me the space.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
yeah,
just
please
kidding.
go ahead.
Okay, so I really wanted to ask you, you know, especially we're living in a digital age, and you know, it's an age of where the computer automation has been, the human intelligence has been replaced by computer automations, right? So you are receiving a lot of applications, and it goes into some software where you know they're screened out, and then you know it goes to the HR. So what exactly do the employers or the people, you know, who are applying into your profession, into the job, they need to do to exactly get past through that the automation thing?
Okay, so there's no work around it, because you know, one positive aspect of artificial intelligence and automation is that it takes away the human biasness, right? So we kept hearing of, you know, parchi system or nepotism earlier in the workplace, but that I think automation has really narrowed that down. And you, have a laser focused approach, right? So if you put in, there are a lot of recruitment softwares now. We personally use a few as well. So if you put in like the qualities that you need, the qualifications, within seconds will sift down, laser focus the CVs that are required.
True.
Now the other thing is that in terms of when you're doing your application, so it's no longer your conventional put in your name, put in your address, and I think Nilofer will vouch for this later on, but also a lot of psychological testing. I remember when I was applying for a firm like mine when it was going to IPO, we literally, they gamified the whole process.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, intelligence-based tests, a lot of psychological tests, and it was all happening online. So you were literally playing a game, but,
Yeah, so you really need to be equipped with all sorts of skill, if you're going to attempt that online exam. But very quickly towards the end, a lot of people write on their CVs, I'm passionate, dedicated, and I'm very competitive, but I can also work in a bigger team or a smaller team as well. And, it's really very tricky. So a 3-word answer for you, because we're only left with 30 seconds of time. Please go ahead.
So definitely you got to give him a scenario-based question for that.
Yeah.
That give me 3 examples of how did you manage a conflict in the team while you were working? How did you manage your leadership skills while you were heading a team? And how did you manage your personal skills when you were doing meeting your deadlines?
Yeah. All right, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, ladies, for being with us. Thank you very much. And it was wonderful to be in conversation. For everybody who's out there, please make sure that you keep all of these things in mind while you're filling up. And God forbid, if you see any one of them, make sure you never lie. All right? Good morning. Bye-bye. Look after yourselves. Have a great day.